Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Lauren.
And I am Ken.
And you may recognize our voices from the podcast Paradise After Dark.
Dark.
Missing and Unsolved. But today we're here to tell you about a nonprofit organization we have created called the Florida Themis Project.
Themis is the Greek goddess of justice, if you're wondering about the name.
The Florida Themis Project aims to support loved ones and victims of unsolved crime by financially contributing to various types of investigative tools, including DNA testing.
We also help the families and loved ones of missing people by assisting with awareness campaigns, helping in ground searches, and any other assistance that we can provide to the families.
We're asking you for your help to spread the word and grow our organization so we can help as many people as possible.
So please be sure to check out our website at floridathemisproject.org for info about how you can help or donate.
We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Florida Themis Project.
Even simply sharing our post on social media is very helpful.
So thank you in advance, true crime friends, for your help and support. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I am Lauren.
I am Ken.
And this is Paradise After Dark.
Dark.
Missing and Unsolved.
This is a Tomahawk Media production covering true crime,
missing people,
unsolved crime,
and cold cases.
Please check out our website, paradiseafterdark.com.
On the website, you'll find links to all of our episodes, even the archived episodes, our mailing list, merch store, and links to all of our social medias.
On the website, we also have a virtual tip jar, so you can leave us a tip and we'll give you a shout out on the show.
Another way to support this show is to join our Tomahawk Media Patreon.
On Patreon, you'll receive early and ad-free episodes for all of our Tomahawk Media shows. And depending on what tier you choose, bonus content and even special gifts from us might come right to you.
Yes, and you can find our Patreon at patreon.com/Tomahawk Media. That's PALMAHAWK Media. There's also going to be a link in the show notes.
So, Lauren, tonight's case, we're going to work in conjunction with our nonprofit organization, the Florida Themis Project.
Yes, actually, the Florida Themis Project is featuring the case of Al Griffiths this month, and we originally covered this case in December of 2019, along with 2 other unsolved cases in the Southwest Florida area. We grouped these 3 cases together because each of them just lacked information. None of them had enough information for an entire episode. But we wanted to keep the word out, and when these cases are open and we can't get enough info, there's only so much we can do. So we grouped Al Griffiths with 2 other cases.
So this is the original information that we had from 2019. So November 18th of 2014 in Cape Coral, Florida, shortly before 9 p.m., while sitting on a bench at the front entrance of the TJ Maxx that he managed, Alfred, a.k.a. Al Griffiths, was shot at point-blank range in the head and killed. The shooter immediately fled the scene.
Al Griffiths lived a quiet life in Cape Coral. He had worked at the TJ Maxx retail store for over 14 years at the time of his murder. He'd go to work, he'd go home, he took care of his family, Detective Bennett Walker told the Fort Myers News Press in a November 2018 article about the case. He really didn't lead a lifestyle that would lead you to believe he would die in such a horrific manner.
Yeah, Lauren, this murder resembled a hit. I mean, the man ran up, shot Al in the head, and then took off, got in a car, possibly an older model sedan, possibly gold, beige in color, as the witnesses stated. Now, a nearby officer heard the shots ring out and were on the scene almost immediately. But by the time they got to where the shooter was, he was gone. So witnesses described a white man in his 40s with a thin build and a white or light colored hair and rimmed eyeglasses. Now, an active perimeter south and west of the store was established as police tried to locate this shooter. Now, police also combed through store surveillance to try to find and identify a subject.
A composite sketch was released to the public 3 days after the shooting. Employees at TJ Maxx placed a flyer with the composite photo of the subject on the store's front door. Not long after, an NBC News crew who was covering the case was approached by a man bearing a very strong resemblance to the sketch, who claimed to have information about the murder. Reporter Dave Elias and photographer Ben Colwell went straight to the Cape Coral Police Department to tell them what the man said. He told them that Alfred Griffiths was shot after an argument over a handicapped parking space. Could that have been the killer? 6 months after the shooting, Al's family came forward to speak to the public. Now, his sister, Pam Griffiths, told Wink News, "Knowing my brother, his legs were tired, he had already put in a long day, and he was just taking a short break. Somebody else obviously had something else in mind." Al did a lot for a lot of people, and that's why I don't understand why someone thinks it's okay to take a life away like that. It's not okay.
She's right. It's not okay.
Nope.
I mean, we were fortunate enough to have been able to speak to Al's sisters, Pam and Claudia, for this episode, and they filled us in on a lot of information that we couldn't find. But the problem is there's still not much information out there. There's
not, and I actually have spoken to 2 different detectives that have been on this case, and unfortunately, as we've seen over and over and over, if it's an open and active investigation, they're not going to give us anything. But the Cape Coral Police Department has been very supportive of us doing this podcast, and they actually thanked us and the Florida Themis Project for keeping this case in the spotlight. So, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I'm sure they'd like this case solved as much as we would, as much as Pam and Claudia and Al's mother would love it solved, as much as the community would love it solved. So,
well, Lauren, one thing that keeps banging in my head, is no one is just going to walk up and shoot someone for fun. I mean, I can understand like an active shooter going into a mall, but Al was just sitting out on a bench. You would think that there would have to be some sort of ulterior motive as to why this occurred.
And I really believe that to be true. But unfortunately, we have some theories, which we do talk about a bit in this interview that we're going to play for our listeners. But we don't know.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Al was a very private person, according to his sisters. So we don't know who he may have been involved with, what the situation could be. There are some theories. There is a suspect that I think is a dead ringer for the composite sketch, but we're not going to name any names. The fact of the matter is that somebody knows something. It's been almost 10 years, and I can't imagine that either the person acted alone, or if they did act alone, they haven't told someone over the years.
Which seems odd to me. I mean, you know how things get. I mean, it's time. Let's get this case solved.
If you know something, say something.
Exactly. And if you have any information, reach out to the Cape Coral Police Department. Call them. The number is 239-574-3223. And I believe Crime Stoppers is still available in this case as well. You can always contact them for any of the cases we cover.
Yes, we're going to put all that information in the show notes.
So, we had the pleasure of talking to Pam and Claudia and getting a little more information on this case and getting their perspectives. Because remember, in these cases, these people are victims as well. So let's take a quick break and then y'all listen to the interview.
Okay, so we are here with Pam and Claudia. These are Al Griffiths' sisters. And right off the bat, I would really like for you guys to tell us about Al. What kind of person was he? Just tell us about his general personality.
He was kind of quiet, like his dad. But also once you got to know him, he was more friendly, and it's hard to kind of sum him up in a few sentences. He loved to cook. He was a good dancer. I believe that in general, his employees at TJ Maxx adored him. He was wonderful with our mom and dad. And after our dad passed away, with our mom, really, really participating in her life and helping to take care of her in the house that she was in. He was a good son. He was a good big brother. He was a good uncle.
So is he your big brother or little brother? What's the birth order?
Al 1960, Pam is next, and then I am the baby.
Okay, so he was older than both of you.
Yes.
Okay.
Whereabouts are you all originally from?
Ohio.
And what brought Al down to Cape Coral?
What brought him down? Claudia, you might have more insight into that. Our parents, as soon as I left to New York City in 86.
And I left to college in 86. Parents put the house on the market, sold it, and moved to Cape Coral, Florida.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think when he went down there.
Not that long after. He had been working like in Hagerstown, Maryland, and Alexandria, Virginia for JCPenney, and then he moved to Florida to open his own store, to Cape Coral, Florida to open his own store.
Is that the TJ Maxx that he was
No,
at?
He had his own business for a lot of years. He had his Marietta Clothiers.
But before Marietta, Claudia, he also had that one store that he worked at, Naples, that he did
right.
Little
Mettler's.
Sister store.
Mettler's. Yes, he worked at Mettler's in Naples, Florida, and then a Fort Myers branch, and then he opened up his own store. Yeah, that's correct, Pam.
Yeah. So he was always involved in the, clothing business, pretty much, safe to say. That was his passion. And, Claudia describing him earlier made me think when people have always asked about him, I mean, he worked. He was that job that he had at TJ Maxx. He worked nonstop.
Yep.
So if he wasn't working, he was relaxing and then maybe going on a little road trip with our mother to do some shopping elsewhere just to look and see what the competition is doing. But pretty basic, not very exciting stuff. So sorry to backtrack a bit.
He worked very
hard, worked his bones off.
He was pretty much into, clothes was pretty much fashion and all that. He was up to date on that. That's kind of where he spent most of his life.
Yes, that was his passion for sure.
Okay. Yeah, graduated from the University of Cincinnati with a fashion merchandising degree, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
So did he seem to have much of a social life? Did he have any close friends? No.
He was really private. He was very private about his social life. He, at one point in time, many years ago, had a longer term relationship with somebody that we all met, but it ultimately didn't work out. But he was pretty private. So to be honest, I don't really know. He would take little vacations, like little weekend vacations, and go to the beach over on the East Coast of Florida, go to like little inclusive resort places over there on the East Coast.
Yeah, just to disconnect. He had friends over there. I think he had a bunch, he had some friends over on the other coast, and even people that worked within the fashion industry. There was a few friends.
And they would they would all go to the same place and coordinate the trips kind of together.
Okay.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I know he looked forward to that a lot.
Much needed disconnect time, from work.
For a person that's working all the time, like you say, getting away, even if it's only for a small amount of time, is pretty huge.
So how long had he been at TJ Maxx before the shooting?
He was an assistant manager before a manager, and Claudia, it was a long time.
14 years. He was with TJ Maxx for 14 years, I believe.
Right. And if you look at that in the scheme of a lifetime, that was a big chunk of his life was spent at TJ Maxx. I'll jump in real fast here just because I want to say it's almost working backwards at this point. We're coming up a 10-year anniversary. We have both gone through it in these 9+ years now. It has changed all of our lives completely. And we go through the different phases. Anniversaries, birthdays, holidays, pardon the French, are really fucked up. And it affects us.
Yeah.
And I will say there's a big gap in these holidays. We memorialize them. Time heals a bit. We all go through grief. All the stages of grief, they come and go. But, while Claudia might feel angry at one point, I might feel sad. But I just am, honestly, today, disappointed at how it's all turned out. in that no one's caught. There's no support from TJ Maxx, basically washed their hands the minute it was, they felt they did what they could do, and then they, moved on. And same with the cops, haven't heard anything. It's been quiet on that end. So this is why, thankfully Claudia's game. Get the word out there. And hopefully we know someone knows something.
Yeah.
And will say something. I just wish a large corporation like TJX would chip in a little more money to help solve this case.
What have they done?
Nothing.
Nothing.
The bare minimum.
Very, very little.
Bare minimum.
They have tried to be as separate and unrelated to this as humanly possible.
It's called corporate resources, not human resources. Basically, there were some conversations early on, and they always asked what I wanted, and I wanted them to show my mother a little kindness. I didn't want anything from them. Claudia didn't want anything from them. But since he was supporting her, helping support her, we were hoping that they would step up a bit, and they didn't. They thought the 401k, the workers' comp, which was 1 year's salary, I don't think he got the bonus. I don't think ever came through because a full year we were just a few weeks away from finishing the year. Very, very disappointing. But, the typical corporate speak, corporate talk.
Not willing to accept any responsibility for the fact that there were not cameras, that there was not, they were very, very unwilling to accept any possibility that they could have done better.
So the setting where this took place out front was not TJ Maxx territory, so to speak. It was run by this company in Cape Coral that had quite a few run-ins. There was, the day that it happened, the night it happened, there were police already in the area because it was incredibly unsafe at night with bad lighting, cameras not working. So they already had a police presence. There was very little recourse, very little that we could do. And trust me, I looked under a lot of rocks and made a lot of phone calls. And then, once you accept workers' comp, they're off the hook. So you sit there, do you take this money and for your mother or what?
What were the other businesses that were in that plaza? You said it was not a standalone TJ Maxx, so it was like in a plaza.
Oh, no.
Were there any other anchor stores, big stores like TJ Maxx?
There was a gym and there was a restaurant right out in front of TJ Maxx to the right. And then there was a gym, right, Pam? Beyond that, I don't know what else.
I find it hard to believe that there were absolutely no other cameras at all.
Oh, no cameras.
How did they not have cameras of the vehicle driving away? Not even just in this shopping center, but from all the shopping centers.
And the bar where there were
nothing but retail.
No, there were no cameras.
Wow.
Is nothing but retail. How is there? This is 2014. This isn't 20 years ago.
Right.
This is 2014. People were recording. It just boggles my mind that there wasn't any video located of any kind of vehicle departing from the scene at that time.
Yeah, it just boggles my mind that there'd be other businesses and, like you said, not even driving away, that they have the timestamp or the time frame and they could check cameras at local businesses, but nobody had anything operational that caught anything. Just
exactly
blows me away.
Yeah, you're talking about a Walgreens, a Taco Bell nearby. There was a bar in there, and also, like what Claudia said, a gym, LA Law Fitness or whatever, that I actually had friends that went there, and they said at night it was pretty darn scary there. So yeah, nothing, nada.
What are your thoughts on what has been done by the Cape Coral Police Department?
I think they were in over their heads. I think they didn't.
Yep.
There was a cop that was new that was there that, do you chase or try to get the person that did this, or do you attend to someone that's mortally injured? And by all accounts, he didn't know what to do. He was out of his league. Not saying it's easy or fun that at that moment. Initially, you get the attention, and you hear from cops for the first, handful of months, and then maybe a year. But we don't even know who is assigned to the case. We haven't for a while now.
Okay.
Yeah, and they used to send us on the anniversary of the murder and on Al's birthday. I would get this, and I'm sure Pam and I think my mom too would get this crappy little postcard in the mail, just a white piece of a postcard from the Cape Coral Police Department, where with your address stamped on it, and somebody has handwritten on the back, like thinking of you at this time, whatever. Like they couldn't even be bothered to put like an actual card in an envelope that would be halfway private. Like you're getting this random thing in your mailbox from the police department. And they did that for several years, but they haven't done that in years even. So like we are really, really off their radar, completely off.
Yeah, America's safest city is quite the opposite. I think they got too busy to keep up with the murder postcards.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say I looked it up before we got on here, and it just seems like Cape Coral PD in particular has a 90.91% clearance rate on homicides. So it just boggles my mind that it's been almost 10 years and this case is still unsolved. I'm looking at the Murder Accountability Project. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at that, but it'll give you the clearance rate of all the counties and departments in the country. And the fact, I think, what else bothers me is that not long after the incident, a reporter, David Elias, and photographer, Ben Caldwell, they encountered who is believed to be the shooter. And they went straight to the Cape Coral PD, and it doesn't seem like Cape Coral PD followed up on that. They were approached by the suspected shooter, who gave them information saying that he was shot after an argument over a handicapped parking spot.
Which that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It doesn't, no. So I'm just curious as to, what's going on there. Why did this one, I don't want to say slip through the cracks? And, Ken and I we back the blue. We do not like to talk bad about police departments. We know how hard they work. We know what they do. But sometimes it just kind of seems like, and especially in this case, what went wrong here?
Because you're not talking about a junkie, someone that was stealing and got shot, someone that was committing a crime in the wrong home and got shot. I mean, you're talking about a longtime community member working at a well-known, nationally known, retail store week before Black Friday.
Yeah.
Minding his own business before closing up the shop. So yeah, not a lot makes sense.
And when the police department was looking into Al and his background and his life, there was nothing that came up as a flag. The man was squeaky clean. There were no drugs in his system. He wasn't in debt. There was nothing that came up. But in spite of that, I think Pam would agree with me. I don't believe at all that this was in any way, shape, or form random.
No, you believe this was a targeted.
Absolutely. I do. And it's been frustrating with the Cape Coral Police Department because even, obviously they're out of contact, but even when things were more fresh, they didn't disseminate a lot of information to us, which was frustrating as a family. Like there was one person in particular that we had heard had been in the store and had been kind of giving my brother dirty looks. And my brother supposedly, this is secondhand. My brother said to another employee, we got to get this guy out of here. And this guy is pretty
the doppelganger for the sketch.
I had known that my brother knew him because at the time, the dogs, I had 2 dogs, and they were both Catahoula leopard dogs, which are not the most common breed.
Right.
And this guy, my brother had gone into this guy's shop and he'd had a Catahoula. So my brother had said to me, oh, so-and-so has a Catahoula. They look just like feral, like my Catahoula. So like and this was, a while ago. So I know my brother knew this guy. I know it because he had been in that shop and he had told me that he had seen a Catahoula.
No.
And so when we passed that on to the police department, they, took note of it, whatever. And when I asked again about it, they said that they followed up on it and that guy had an alibi. And that was all they ever said.
But I will say one thing. When Claudia sent me that name, and it was the sketch.
Oh yeah, when you pull up pictures of this guy, he looks just like the sketch.
Yeah, I'm actually looking online. I'm looking at Facebook right now, and I don't want to mention a name. Yeah, I see what you are saying as far as the sketch. I could even create a side by side right now, and it's pretty
it's scary.
Pretty spot on, honestly.
Now, was this a customer that he got into maybe a riff with, or
no idea?
If I had to extrapolate and guess, so Al, I don't know who he had relationships with that were casual. It's entirely possible he was not the most emotionally mature person. He had not had successful long-term relationships his whole life. He had some, but I could see that he had dated somebody and that this guy potentially wanted to end things and my brother didn't take it well, and that this guy felt threatened that my brother was going to somehow expose him or something. I could see that being a motivation.
Okay. So him being like a business owner, maybe he thought his reputation would be on the line.
No, this guy's on the down low. This guy's married with kids.
Oh, okay. Now it makes sense. I understand what you're saying now.
Okay. We're not sure if Al had a relationship with this man that we're discussing, but this man is married with kids. He may not be out as gay, and he may have gotten concerned that Al might out him, if you will.
It is an explanation that makes sense in something that otherwise doesn't make sense at all.
Do you have anything to back that theory up, or is that just your own personal thought?
I know that Al knew him. And this, I wish I could tell you better, like that conversation that I had with my brother about this guy having Catahoulas was 6 months before or whatever. To be honest, I don't remember the span of time between when we had that conversation and his murder. But I know that he knew him. So to have secondhand information that this same guy was in the shop, was in TJ Maxx and was shooting dirty looks at Al, and again, secondhand information, but Al saying,
do we know it was this particular guy that was in TJ Maxx?
That's what I was told. Yeah, that it was him. And that's what I said to the Cape Coral Police Department. Okay. I told all of this to the Cape Coral Police Department. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we found sometimes it's frustrating because the alibi could be a spouse, which can sometimes they kind of lean one way or the other to cover.
Right. Well, somebody was driving the getaway vehicle. Yeah. Somebody was driving the getaway vehicle. There's more than one person that was there that knows what's going on.
Oh, that's even more frustrating.
Well, the parking lot was full. I mean, it was jam. It was active. It was very active.
That's right, because it was close to Black Friday, so it was definitely, that would make sense because then you're close to Thanksgiving where people would be out waiting for family to come in and prepare for the holidays.
I think this case is so very solvable. It's actually very baffling that it hasn't been solved yet. And like I said, I don't like to talk bad about, a police department, but there's something wrong with this picture that it's almost 10 years and that this case isn't solved.
Thank you for saying that. And I said this to Pam earlier, if we had unlimited resources, we would have hired a private investigator a long time ago. We just don't have the resources to do that.
Right.
Plus, I also said if TJ Maxx would man up, woman up, and put some cash on the table to help find this person, someone would rat out for money.
Well, is there a reward besides I know the
25,000.
Oh, 25. Okay, so Crime Stoppers has it at 3,000. Now it's 25,000.
Oh, it's 3?
It's 3. That's what they're listing it at now.
I'm looking at Crime Stoppers website right now while we're talking, and it says a 3,000 cash reward.
Oh, so TJ Maxx took their money back.
They rescinded their offer. Yeah, which they initially gave on, like, they were not forthcoming about, like, they didn't want it disseminated that they were the ones that were offering extra money for the reward, but evidently they've withdrawn their offer. Even better.
Oh, I'm so sorry that
surprises me.
I'm so sorry. And I'm so sorry to you and your family for what you're going through. It's so hard, and I can't say I know how you feel, but doing this job for 6 years, this podcast, and dealing with family and after family, I can empathize, and it hurts my heart when I see, you two sisters, you just want justice for your brother, and there's all these, seems like roadblocks in the way. And what we like to do is just make sure that these cases don't fall through the cracks, make sure they stay in the limelight. I don't know if if I told you, or maybe you've seen on social media, Ken and I have created a nonprofit organization called the Florida Themis Project. Themis is actually the Greek goddess of justice. That's where the name comes from. I always tell people that right off the bat because they're like, what the heck does Themis mean? But what we do, one of the things that we do, we help the family members and loved ones of cold case, unsolved cases, and missing people. And we do whatever we can. And one of the things that we do is each month we feature a case where we just blast it on social media. We have, so many people sharing it, and we do a podcast episode about it. And then basically we put our blog. We have a blog on our Themis website. It's floridathemisproject.org. But I wanted to offer you guys for the month of, this episode's going to be coming out in January. And I was going to ask if we could have your blessing to feature Al for the month of January as our featured case.
Yeah, of course.
Just to, because I feel like, especially in this case, I feel like if we can get this out there to the right ears or eyes, to somebody who knows. And now that I know as time goes by, it seems like people are more likely to talk. Maybe back then somebody was in a relationship and they were afraid to come forward, or they had certain loyalties that no longer exist. So they may be more likely to come forward with information.
The question I have about the whole case, what evidence do they have? Do they have anything at all? I mean, there's no camera footage. I mean, there's absolutely nothing except just the victim.
There's witnesses, though. There was somebody that saw, there was somebody that saw, and I hope my memory is correct, but saw the shooter get into an idling car, like a sedan, like a tan sedan, and drive away. Like he wasn't the driver. Somebody was parked there waiting for him and drive away. There were multiple witnesses. There was a police officer in the shopping center that didn't witness the crime, but heard the shots and responded immediately. I don't know, Pam, what am I missing?
The only thing that I'm aware of as far as TJ Maxx, there was a camera inside the store. The majority of what happened was fuzzy and blocked by the large posters they have in the window. But you could, I think they were able to see a flash and a person walking up, but that's it.
That's not a lot of information.
No.
I think the getaway car is key. And that the fact that there's no video from surrounding businesses is insane to me.
Well, I find it ironic that TJ Maxx would have a camera inside to protect their merchandise, but not one outside to protect their patrons.
Bingo. You're not safe shopping at TJ Maxx.
You know what? I bet they still don't.
No, of course not. Then you're not.
That exact same location. I bet they still don't.
Of course not.
Wow. I don't think I want to shop there anymore.
Cameras inside.
I don't think I'm going to shop there anymore. Not that I really did anyway, but I'm boycotting TJ Maxx.
It's just frustrating, because if he dedicated a lot of years of his life to TJ Maxx and obviously being a manager, he seemed like the type of guy that if he was going to be involved in something, he kind of poured his heart and soul into it. So it's just frustrating that there's nothing they're kind of backing out. There's nothing else there that they can offer to help.
They've done, like what Claudia said, the bare minimum. And I think if anything, when I would get a hold of someone and I'd send a letter starting with the CEO of TJX, the corporation, the corporate headquarters, somebody would call me back and it would be, well, what can we do for you? And I said, it's all laid out in the letter. I could provide letters that I sent. And then they would offer the assistant to the assistant of the assistant to the assistant in Florida to call my mother. And I'm like, well, why bother? And that's usually how each call would end up. Someone to call and say sorry. But no, they were hands off. They made that clear very, very early on.
It kind of always felt like, even though it was unsaid, that their attitude was like, well, we didn't kill him.
Yeah.
We're not responsible. It
exactly. We didn't do it.
He was
so why
not
should
in
we
the
care?
store. Correct. He was not in the store. He was sitting on a bench.
Yeah.
Taking a 5-minute break. And he didn't want to sit in the back because it was bad lighting. It was dangerous. Even, like I said a bit earlier, I had a friend that was working out there. And she said at night, you just don't go there at night. It's a very bad spot.
Well, it's Cape Coral, so I'm not sure much has changed there.
No, the safest place in the United States, probably nothing's changed. Yeah.
I think it's funny. Is that what they call it, really?
They did. They just recently, there was something in the newspaper about how Cape Coral ranks highest amongst cities of whatever, about like how safe it is. And of course, there was no opportunity to leave a comment because I would have loved to put a comment about what about the unsolved murders, but it wasn't an option to leave a comment.
Wow.
No.
When was the last time that you all have spoken to someone at the Cape Coral Police Department?
Great question. I'm going to look in my.
It's been a while. I've gone through phases. In the beginning, I was not overly eager to pursue figuring all this out because there is no justice. Nothing that we figure out will bring my brother back. But now here approaching, just having passed the 9-year anniversary, there's no justice, but answers would be somewhat, somehow a relief.
Yeah. And you deserve that. What would you like to see happen? If you could have your way, what would you, Pam and Claudia, what would you like to see happen? As far as law enforcement, what would you like to see them doing at this point?
I would love to see an arrest made. I would love to have this person pay for what they did, what they put our family through. I would love to see someone brought to justice. Love to have that person, because if they did it to my brother, who honestly couldn't hurt a fly, they could do it to anyone else. Someone out there knows who did this. That's what I've been saying, my mantra all along.
Someone knows something.
Yeah, someone knows something. Someone needs to say something. I would love to see someone suffer for this crime in return.
And I would love to see that, but I am somewhat cynical. I just hate feeling like he's forgotten.
Mm.
I just want somebody to care and remember and try. Just try.
Yeah, we have such a small family as is. It's 3 girls, 2 daughters, mother. And just give a shit. Just help us. Come clean. Say something. You know something. Somebody out there knows something.
Yeah.
And it's been a crappy 9 years because of this. It has changed us greatly. Individually, we have such ups and such downs. I mean, try to think the anniversary on the 18th, just recently. Boy, talk about coming out of nowhere. 9 years later, you don't know when to, you can expect the grief to hit you, and hit it did. Our mother felt it, and she expressed it. She wasn't herself. It was very hard.
Yeah, we see that quite often. It's frustrating because, there's so many other victims. It's not just Al, it's everyone that was close to him, family, everyone's affected, and everybody takes a little different path because of the incident.
What's interesting about this case to me personally is just how incapable Al was of hurting anyone. Anytime that there was a disagreement, if we talked about something we didn't agree, he would walk away. I mean, there's just he did not have a combative nature. He was quiet. And no joke when I say his life was work and his work was his life.
And the fact that it wasn't random, it wasn't a robbery, it wasn't a drug thing. And I agree with you. From what I know, it seems like a targeted incident, a targeted attack. And it just makes you wonder why or who. That's that, like who and why. That would be my biggest questions. I can't even really imagine how you guys feel, but I get angry if I start really thinking about it. Like, why?
Claudia, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm okay.
No, I say that just because the tone in your voice earlier, I could tell. It's upsetting. Okay. Obviously, it's incredibly upsetting. And I know you guys don't know what it feels like. You've done enough of these, though, that you have a taste. It's not something I would wish upon anyone at all. And somebody out there, I'll say it over and over again. Somebody knows something. Someone needs to say something.
I make a lot of effort to remember my brother with my kids. I have 2 girls and a boy, and I make a lot of effort to remember him. It would be really nice for them. They're 17-year-old twins and a 14-year-old. It'd be really nice for them to see that the justice system works, that things get solved, that somebody cares, that my brother mattered, and that, there are answers. It would be nice to be able to show them that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he loved your kids so much, Claudia.
Oh, he did. Can I tell a bad story about, and then get him in trouble with TJ Maxx probably. But when the kids were tiny, he, at one point when we were down there visiting, let us in the store before the store was open and let the kids pretty much run amok through the store and pick what they wanted as a present. Can you imagine? Can you imagine having and they were maybe 6 and 3,
I didn't know about this.
Oh my God, he totally did that when we were down there. Yes, he let them
screaming. They must have been screaming.
They had to go they were allowed to pick something, anything, and oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it was wonderful. He was a wonderful uncle. He adored them.
Oh, he did adore them.
They always had the best. Because TJ Maxx is good with the Halloween costume. They always had the best Halloween costumes. Yeah, no, he was good.
That's a lovely thought. I'm glad that you have those memories.
Absolutely, Claudia. I didn't know about that. That's a lovely, amazing story. Oh my God.
Well, this just makes this even worse. Part of my aim when we're doing these interviews is to humanize the victim. That's why I ask you, what's Al like? Where are you guys from? Let's get some, not just Al, manager at TJ Maxx. No, who was he? And I think that's a wonderful story to highlight what kind of person he was. And it just makes this feel more tragic. I mean, all murder is tragic, but Oh, this
one of
one's
my
a doozy.
one of my favorite stories that I did hear from his neighbor. Someone told us, I forget who, when he would water his plants. I mean, he had the greenest thumb there is.
Yep.
I guess he actually talked to his plants, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know too many guys that talk to their plants, but if that doesn't sum it up.
I think that's kind of cute. That's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's very sweet. But it just shows you who he I almost said is. He not a mean, dangerous bone in that body.
Well, is there anything else that you want to put out there for our listeners to hear about Al, or about what you're looking for, or just anything else you want to say to wrap this up?
I'm glad. I want to thank you guys for helping us talk about this in a public forum. I think Pam and I intend to hopefully make more noise as this year approaching the 10-year anniversary progresses. So thanks for enabling that with us. I don't know, Pam.
I think to sum it up, and I've said it until I'm purple in the face, but Al was a good guy. He was a hard worker. He was truly a mama's boy. Mm-hmm. My mother always said she lost her best friend that day. He was firstborn. To see justice for my mother would be great. See justice for two baby sisters would be great. Help us find the person that did this. They do not deserve to be walking free on the streets, living their life after having taken Al's life. We miss him dearly, and it's taken such a big chunk of our hearts away, My brother and I had our differences at times. We were closer in age, but growing up, boy, did I admire him, and like he was the coolest, he was just cool. The big brother.
Yeah.
Just did his own thing. And, again, thank you for allowing us this time to talk about him. And, it makes me more angry again, but sad too. And if we could solve this, or at least put some fire under where fire needs to go to get this unsolved murder solved, let's do it.
Well, I want to thank you both, Pam and Claudia, for trusting us to help you tell this story. And we're going to do our best to do Al justice with this episode. And if you think of anything that we might be able to help with, please do not hesitate to reach out.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Again, if you have any information about the murder of Al Griffiths in Cape Coral, Florida, the Cape Coral Police Department is 239-574-3223. If you know something, say something. All right, everyone, that's it for this episode.
Please remember to check out our website for links to all of our social media, our Patreon, our merch store, and much, much more.
And please make sure to subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're listening on, and rate and review. This really helps us branch out and reach a wider audience.
And as always, thank you all for listening
to Paradise After Dark.
Dark, dark, dark.